This is all in the context of the European elections and the polling. The Observer, a poll surge for Nigel Farage's Brexit party, it says, sparks panic in the Tories and Labour. And when you see the numbers, you can guess why. The Sunday Telegraph has a very similar take on that, and an interview with Nigel Farage inside. Brexit party beats Tories in general election poll. So going beyond the European elections, they're saying if there was a general election, then the Brexit party would be beating the Tories then as well. Now, there are polls all over the place, and of course they change day by day, and all the usual riders apply. Nevertheless, Madeline, if you look at the front page of the Observer, it's pretty dramatic stuff, isn't it?
Yeah, I mean, it's a snapshot, but it's one hell of a snapshot. This poll is putting the Brexit party going into the next European elections at 34%, which in their poll is more than the Labour Party and the Conservatives put together. The Conservative support has plummeted to just 11% in the European elections.
That's astonishing, isn't it?
And at the same time, I mean, I think it's astonishingly high, but it's roughly in line with what UKIP were achieving, for example. So I think we know there is that level of Eurosceptic support. I think that perhaps the even more remarkable finding is the cover of the Sunday Telegraph, where we've run a poll showing that for the first time the Brexit party is edging ahead of Conservatives in national polling, so at a general election. And were this current snapshot to be replicated in a general election, it would have the Conservatives almost halving the number of seats that they have and the Brexit party winning 49.
The Labour Party has brought out a European election manifesto. They certainly have. And so we should be clear now about whether they are basically a pro-Brexit party or basically an anti-Brexit party. Jonathan Ashworth, the Shadow Health Secretary, is with me. Jonathan Ashworth, thanks for bringing out a manifesto which we can look at. Let's look at what it says on the crucial issue. Here it is here. Sorry. If we can't get agreement along the lines of our alternative plan or a general election, Labour backs the option of a public vote. What does option mean?
Well, we've shown our support on about 3 occasions now in the House of Commons for a public vote. Of course, it didn't have enough Conservative MPs supporting a public vote in the House of Commons, so it fell in the Commons on the occasions when we've had those votes. We've always said, we said it in our 2017 general election manifesto, and we've said it in subsequent occasions, and Jeremy Corbyn has been very clear, that we accept the result of the referendum. After all, Labour MPs didn't obstruct the referendum legislation when it came through Parliament in 2015.
But option leaves something completely open. So what you're saying in this manifesto is you're saying we want our version of Brexit, option A, or option 1. We would love a general election, option 2. And then if we can't have those things, we might have the possibility, the option of a further referendum. But we're not committing ourselves to it. Actually, when you read it closely, this means we don't want another referendum.
No, I don't think it does.
Options to priorities.
Sure.
Priority 1 is Brexit. Get us out on a Labour deal. That's your first priority. Priority 2 is a general election, and priority 3, further down the list, is the possibility of a referendum, which might, in due course or not, you heard Nigel Farage, lead to us staying inside the EU. It's way, way down.
Well, it's not way, way down when we voted for it 3 times in the House of Commons. And the reason why we didn't get that referendum in the House of Commons when we voted for it is because there isn't enough support across the whole of the House of Commons for a referendum. Unless Conservative members of Parliament come to a different judgment on a referendum, we can't get one because of the arithmetic of the House of Commons. Now, we have to deal with the reality of the MPs who have been returned to the House of Commons. But we raised the issue of a confirmatory vote in those negotiations as well. But the Prime Minister isn't prepared to compromise.
These elections, there are, I think, 4 main pro-Brexit parties. There's UKIP, there's the Brexit Party, there's the Conservative Party, and there's the Labour Party. Be in no doubt, a vote for Labour is a vote for Brexit. Nigel Farage and Boris Johnson will use those votes to say the British people want Brexit to happen. Well, watching this interview, and I was thinking, I disagree with Nigel Farage on the EU, and I disagree with Nigel Farage on immigration. Why would I vote Labour, who want to get us out of the EU and who also wants to stop free movement of people? Why would I not vote for a proper Remain party, like the Liberal Democrats, like the Greens, like Plaid Cymru, like the SNP? Isn't the truth of it that you've forgotten your Nye Bevan and you're wandering down the middle of the road? Nye Bevan famously said people who are in the middle of the road tend to get run over, and that's what's going to happen to you guys, isn't it? Turn to your responsibility, the NHS. There's reports in the papers this morning about huge cuts in NHS training, involving a massive, massive amount of money. Are you properly funded, and would you reverse all of those training cuts?
Yeah, I mean, this is really important because we expect in the coming days, perhaps as soon as Tuesday, the government to finally bring forward its interim workforce plan on staffing. We've got 100,000 vacancies across the NHS, and today is International Nurses Day. We've actually lost 200,000 nurses since 2010 under the Tories. It's because they've had a pay freeze. It's because of the huge pressures on the front line, but it's also because they've cut the training budgets, the development budgets by around 200 million. We would reverse those cuts to training because we want our staff who work in the NHS to be the best trained staff in the world. But at the moment, we're losing so many staff from the NHS. We've got to reverse that.
Let's bring those two themes we've been talking about, the NHS and Brexit, together. And I want to quote you, Jeremy Hunt, long-serving Health Secretary, one of the longest-serving health secretaries in recent times, who's talking about a customs union at the heart of Labour's policy. And he says a customs union would not work for the UK. I was health secretary. The EU would be able to decide that American companies could bid for NHS contracts without us, as the UK having any say at all on an issue that's very emotive to a lot of people in this country. So I don't think it's the right solution. And on the facts, he's right. If you do a customs deal which allows the EU to carry on in control, they can do a TTIP-style deal with the US. We know that the American health companies are desperate to get into the British healthcare system.
Yeah, well, actually...
And you would be absolutely exposed as health secretary.
No, because our version of a customs union is one where we would still have a say over the trade deals. And that is something that the Irish have said is perfectly sensible and would work. Actually, what the government are proposing is the ability to write individual trade deals, which means they would write a trade deal with the US, which would allow Trump's America, big private healthcare firms in the US, getting their hands on contracts in the UK. And I don't want our NHS to be up for sale to the US. So actually, I think our proposal safeguards the NHS. It's actually the Tory proposal that puts it at risk.
But Jonathan Ashworth, you know that the Labour proposal for a customs union deal which gives the UK outside the EU a veto over EU trade deals runs counter to the very beginnings of the Treaty of Rome and is pretty close to being an impossible unicorn. If you don't get that, you are completely exposed. All right, Jonathan Ashworth, for now, thanks very much indeed.